Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 654. 654. January the 6th, 2019, Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Another kind of slow news day, but we'll go ahead and go through it. Couple of interesting items, so yeah, some things to talk about. Well, of course, probably the biggest story, international story going on right now is the massive riots by the Yellow Vests back in France. Again, they just refused to go away. I don't know what it was, this week number 8 or something like that. But really big riots, and now, of course, we can see that Macron and his government are beginning to take a different approach. They're now really calling out the Yellow Vest, and they're really starting to arrest people, particularly the leaders. We're breaking out, of course, tear gas and water cannons. Again, they're getting more aggressive at combating the Yellow Vest, and I think that they're at the point now where they're going to start trying to put it down. And of course, what that usually involves is that when you try to put down a movement like that, it actually ends up empowering the movement, and so it's an escalation. Is really what this is. It's an escalation, and you got to wonder where this is all going to end. But apparently these protests were fairly large. 25,000 or so believed to have been participating in these Yellow Vest protests over the weekend. And they seem to have been inflamed by the arrest of one of the Yellow Vest organizers, whose name is Eric Drouet, D-R-O-U-E-T. So he was arrested for, I guess, being an organizer of the Yellow Vest. So that, when the government starts arresting their political enemies, their political opponents, that has a tendency to feed the protests and the protesters, and more leaders step up, and more followers will follow them, and it's just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense that the government tries to put it down. First they try to ignore it, that doesn't work. Then they try to appease it, that doesn't work. Then they say, okay, well, now our only choice is to combat it. And all of these things fail because they never really address the core issue. And in this particular case, unfortunately for the French citizens, Macron, he takes his marching orders from the EU. And he is fully in love with that idea. I mean, he supports that. It's not like he's under duress. He fully supports the EU superstate. And he thinks like they do. And they're a tyrannical bunch. And so now we have Macron even being advised by a former ministry official of his government and the previous government, telling Macron, warning him, hey, if you keep playing this thing this way and pushing back the way you are, you could be looking at full-blown revolution. And I agree with that. I think that that's exactly what's happening. I don't think that these Yellow Vest protests are going away. I think that they'll only get bigger, and they'll continue. And again, Macron's in a difficult situation because, number one, he doesn't have the solution to the problem. No one person could, because as I've pointed out in many other videos, when you listen to the man on the street interviews of the protesters, they're all in agreement that they don't like Macron, that they don't like the policies of his government, that they don't like the situation in France. They're all in agreement on that. The problem is there are 20 different groups with 20 different ideas on what they do want. They all agree on what they don't want, but there's no consensus amongst all these groups on what they do want. Now, a lot of this is causing or resulting in Marine Le Pen's party becoming more popular. But, and I supported Marine Le Pen over Macron. It was a kind of a hold your nose thing. But the fact of the matter is, if you listen to Marine Le Pen on economics, on tax policy and things like that, she's not a whole lot different than Macron. She's a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. She's for a bigger welfare state. She's, as far as I know, I haven't heard her talking about, having a massive tax cut. She just disagrees with Macron and the government on a lot of the EU policies, on losing their sovereignty to the EU, and specifically on their immigration policy. That's really where her big differences are. As far as her economic policy, she's far left as you can get. The solution to the problems in France are not there. There is no solution to this problem. That's why I say, as I've been saying, that 2019 is going to be a very volatile year in the EU. The hard Brexit is almost certainly going to happen now. You have almost every country in the EU now with very, very slow growth. I guess many could be considered in recession. And even the powerhouse economy of the EU, Germany, has slipped in the last year and a half. They're slowing down. They're grinding to a halt. So all over the Eurozone, you have all these economies which are grinding to a halt. They're essentially shrinking economies. And this is feeding a lot of the problems that you're having in Europe, and feeding a lot of the problems that are happening in France. And if you look at the direction things are heading, it only is common logic based on what we've seen. We can expect to see more of it because we know who's running the show. It's the EU. And their solution to the problem that they're going to be having, I think it'll really hit during the summer, is that they're going to be forced again to impose more austerity and also more bailouts. They're going to be bailing out some countries, and they're already doing that. But they're going to have a European bank crisis because they can't continue to bail out all these countries in the EU while imposing austerity. And I just see a lot of chaos. And we've been seeing it now in the EU. It's been building for 2, 3, 4 years now. It really began in earnest with Greece about 3 years ago. And it just continues on and on and on. It's not getting any better. There are no solutions for the problems they have in the EU that can be addressed by the EU. It just isn't possible. It's bigger than the EU. So it's going to be a very rough and tumble year for Europe in 2019, and it's really not. I mean, I don't want to see that because it's not good for the global economy. It's not good for us. It's not good for anybody. And I think the EU's days are numbered. But these people will not go away quietly. They're not going to give up the ghost. They're never going to give up on their, dream of a European superstate. So this is why I see push coming to shove. Two unmovable objects coming together, and I just think it's going to be a very difficult and challenging year for the EU in 2019. I think a lot of chaos, a lot of crises, and I just certainly hope that it doesn't spread to the rest of the world and contaminate the rest of the world. What we really need to see is the end of the EU, is this superstate union. They need to go back to just a simple trading bloc, and they need to allow all these countries to get their currencies back so that they can begin to grow their economies. This idea of one currency for all these countries in the EU was a disastrous idea from the very beginning. It never would have worked from the very beginning. And you can try to wallpaper over the problem all you want, but eventually you're going to get to the point where the EU is now, where either they are going to be forced to engage in more bailouts and more austerity, and we know what that produces. Exactly what you're seeing now happening in France. It's just that what we're seeing happening in France is going to spread throughout the entire EU over the summer. There'll likely be a central banking crisis. Just a lot of problems coming ahead. The hard Brexit is going to be another major problem, and it's really going to affect Germany the most because Germany exports billions of dollars of cars. So their economy's slowing. They're the biggest economy in the EU, and if they lose a trading partner like the UK, along with many other European countries, this is only going to exacerbate the problem. It's just going to exasperate the problem. And that's why I say I see nothing but storm clouds heading for Europe. We'll keep watching. Pelosi, Schumer, Hoyer and Dick Durbin refused to attend the DHS briefing. So Trump provided the border security briefing notes to congressional staffers. They're really playing this. The Democrats are really playing a losing hand here. The last poll I just saw last night, 64%. There's another poll, 67%. There's probably other polls, but they all show over 60% of Americans support border security. And whether that takes the form of a wall, a steel barrier, more border patrol, drones, whatever it is, certain areas of the border require certain different things. But the majority of people are on board with this idea that we need to have better border security. And I think the Democrats are on the losing side of this. But they're continuing to stay dug in. And I think this is a fight Trump's going to win, but he has to make sure that he keeps the Republicans, make sure they don't go weak in the knees. And if this takes months or a year or more, I think eventually the Dems will cave because they'll eventually see the numbers are not working in their favor. I just hope they stay strong. I know Trump will. And he's not backing down on the $5 billion. So there's been people saying, yeah, well, he's willing to negotiate down to $2 billion or $3 billion. Apparently not, because today he made a statement saying he wants the $5 billion, period. It's amazing to watch the Democrats try to negotiate their way through this. And, a lot of people are saying, obviously they have a plan. I mean, what's the Democrats' plan? I mean, they're on the downside of an issue. They're on an issue that they're on the losing side of. They must have a plan. They must have some sort of a plan that they're going to try to rescue themselves or turn the tables on Trump and the Republicans on this issue. It's what everybody keeps saying. But I'm telling you, folks, they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. The only plan they have is that they're counting on their anti-Trump supporters to be louder and more energetic than the people who support Trump in the wall. This is all they've got. If they had a logical, rational argument to make, they would be making it. They're not. They're not trying to make a logical, rational argument. You got Pelosi saying it's immoral. You got Schumer saying it's too much money. We can't afford it. It doesn't work. Walls don't work. Well, nobody believes that. Everybody knows that walls work. And everybody knows it's only $5 billion. It's a drop in the bucket in a $3 trillion, $4 trillion budget. So no one's buying it. They're on the losing end of an issue, and they don't have a plan. Trust me, the Democrats do not have a plan. We'd have seen it by now. We're seeing the plan, and it's a PR campaign, hoping that the people who hate Trump are scream louder than the people who like him. It's a loser. It really is. Well, many of you are familiar with Bill Still. Bill Still did a video where he said that Q is a deep state disinformation operation. A deep state disinformation operation. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, as you know, I'm not one of those people who follow Q very closely. I hear things like everyone else, and I have a lot of Q supporters on my channel, which is fine. It's cool if you want to follow Q or whatever. I don't really know a deep state disinformation operation. That's getting into the weeds again, and I don't even want to go there. But it cost him a couple hundred. He said he lost 250 subscribers, and so that's what you can expect, I guess. I don't know. I actually don't look at my thumbs up, thumbs down, or how many subscribers I have. I really hardly ever look at that. I mean, because I'm not in them. I don't monetize my channel. I don't make any money, so I don't know that it really matters. But the same thing was true. H.A. Goodman has come out and said he doesn't buy into the Q thing, and he also took a major hit. Styx Hexenheimer is also doesn't put much stock in it. He lost supporters. So, I mean, a lot of people that follow Q get upset if you, do not buy into it or whatever, and they, I guess they unsubscribe or stop donating to you or whatever, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I just don't spend very much time with it, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is, really, to be honest with you. Some kind of phenomenon. I don't know where it's coming from, and quite honestly, I don't care that much. And I'm one of those people that I just think, if a lot of people want to follow that and they're interested in it and they enjoy following that and it's something that they think's pretty cool. I mean, I don't have a problem with it really. myself. What people want to believe Q or not believe Q. I don't. Just to me, it's not worth getting mixed up. Not worth getting bent out of shape over either way, whether you support or not support. Just some people are into it and some are not. So no big deal. I'm sure Bill still will be fine. Well, we have this nutbag, Hank Johnson. Many of you are familiar with Hank Johnson. Again, this is not the first time he's done this, comparing Trump to Hitler. He's done this several times. Now, keep in mind who this guy is. Hank Johnson is the Democratic congressman who, about 2 or 3 years ago, seriously asked or showed concern in a committee hearing while speaking with someone from the Pentagon or someone like that, some military person. He wasn't a military officer, but he's someone, I think, from the Pentagon, a civilian from the Pentagon. And these guys were being, they were in a congressional hearing answering questions about defense issues and things and such. And Hank Johnson's the guy who told this guy from the Pentagon that he was deeply concerned that if we deployed too many troops to this island where we had, I guess there's a small island where we have some military, a runway and some storage space and some troops there. Hank Johnson was telling this Pentagon official that he was concerned that if we put too many troops on one end of the island, that the island could capsize. The island could capsize. Whew. So you've got a member of Congress, Democrat member of Congress, who believes that you can capsize an island. And he was serious. It wasn't a joke. He's dead serious. Well, he's the same guy that keeps calling Trump Hitler. This dude should be booted out of the Congress. I mean, you literally should not be able to be in the Congress if you're that stupid. I think we need to start giving a test for members of Congress. We have to start giving a test for members of Congress. We've got way too many people in Congress who are flat stupid, man. I mean, I'm just talking flat out stupid. I mean, this is not even close. Elizabeth Warren was giving a speech in Iowa, and as she was trashing the rich, and keep in mind, she's a multi-millionaire, elitist snob, as she's trashing the rich, her microphone stopped working and the lights went out, so I guess they lost power. Right in the middle of her trashing rich people, of which she is one. She's one of those rich elites, wealthy elites. And she got rich as a member of Congress, like many other people. How do people making 150 grand a year become multi-millionaires? And, but they do. Just ask the whole bunch of them. Congress is full of them. Then we have this Romanian MP at the EU, Laurento Rebiga, saying that 2019 is going to be a complicated year for Europe. Yeah, obviously, that's what I've been talking about for months now. And he's telling Juncker that change is coming to the EU. Yeah, and there's another person who made a similar statement about a week ago, and that was George Soros. Also telling the EU that big problems are coming for the EU. And another thing that's going on with Soros is, of course, he can't go to Russia. He can't go to his home country. Otherwise, he'll be arrested. Well, there's also, he's got a ship that's attempting to unload its cargo. It's now been denied the ability to come to port in 3 different countries. Two European and 1 Mediterranean country have refused Soros's cargo ship to be unloaded at their ports. So the walls are definitely closing in on Soros. I mean, he can't even go back to his home country, which, Hungary, where Mr. Orban says if he steps foot on their soil, he'll be arrested. Putin says he'll be arrested if he comes to Russia. Now he can't unload his ship in 3 different countries, 3 different ports. The walls are closing in. They certainly are. Antifa is setting up no-go zones for conservatives in Nashville. Now, we're not talking San Francisco or Oakland or Seattle or Portland or anything like that. We're talking about Nashville, Tennessee. If the good folks down there in Nashville, Tennessee, allow Antifa to take over their streets, I'll be very, very disappointed. Trump says that the rumor that Jim Webb may become his defense secretary is fake news. That's interesting. I actually kind of like Jim Webb. I said I wouldn't have a problem with Jim Webb. I think he'd probably be a good Secretary of Defense. Not sure why Trump is dissing him or whatever, but I wouldn't have had a problem with Jim Webb. I mean, he would be a hell of a lot better than what we've got. So, we'll see what happens there. We have Joe Biden blaming Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter for the government shutdown. That's, of course, fairly typical. Biden's completely out of touch with reality, or he's lying. Trump doesn't strike me as someone who takes his cues from anybody. Let's see. The Democrats want to revive the individual mandate, which that will go nowhere. That was the most unpopular part of Obamacare, and it pretty much is Obamacare. Maybe they realize that with the individual mandate now gone, that the Supreme Court is going to say it's unconstitutional, which they should, and so maybe that's why they're trying to get it back in. But they're never going to get it through the Senate. It's not going to happen. I mean, they've got a failed agenda. They've got this far left-wing agenda, starting with impeachment and reversing, the Electoral College and everything else. These things are all failed things. They're not going to pass. Most of them won't even get out of the House. But that's what they're going to do. And it's just going to be a failed 2 years for Nancy Pelosi. This next 2 years for the Democrats and House of Representatives is going to be a disaster. Trust me. It's going to be a disaster and a freak show. John Bolton is saying that chemical weapons from Syria will be met with very strong response. Of course. But didn't we send the EU over there to confiscate all of Syria's chemical weapons? I thought we did. But now that Trump says that we're getting out of there in 4 months, I told you watch out for a false flag. So my guess is they're going to get some chemical weapons over there and launch a chemical weapons attack and a false flag chemical weapons attack, and then tell Trump that's the reason why we can't get out. We got to take out Assad. I certainly hope Trump doesn't fall for it. William Barr said this was actually back in December when he wrote this memo. But in this memo, Barr said that the Mueller investigation is legally insupportable, and that he said that the investigation is a massive overreach of special counsel powers. That's going to be some very, very interesting confirmation hearings with William Barr. I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that turns out, but it's probably going to look a lot like the Kavanaugh hearings. I expect they're all probably already working on finding some bimbos to line up against William Barr. We'll see how that goes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good day. Bye.